Jazzcast Pros.
Do you have 15 minutes to talk about building a better relationship with yourself? Good, because that's about how long this podcast is. Welcome to the Healthy Illness Podcast. Today's episode is all about my decision to start taking antidepressants again. I've spent a lot of time detailing the tools that I use in order to stay mentally healthy. So I have not taken medication for my depression, generalized anxiety, and this other mystery thing that we don't know what it is, but we know it's there. And over the years, I've taken different medications, trying to find the right mix for me. I landed on a couple that worked well. And so I'll tell you how I got to the medication I'm taking now. But worked on a couple that worked well over the years. And by over the years, right, I'm 49. I have been in therapy off and on since I was 9 because of my childhood things. But as an adult, I started going back to therapy really in that postpartum stage after having my first child at 18. So for the last 30 years, I have been on this mental health journey, regulating my mental health, learning what works, what doesn't work. We know that in that time span, there was a deep depression that led to me wanting to take my life and being suicidal and actionable in that space, and living through that and recovering through it. I have been on some heavy meds, some mild meds, some general anxiety medication, some general depression medication. I have walked, I have journaled, I have stretched, I have biked, I have hiked, I have prayed, I have slept, I have eaten reasonably healthy. I will say that's probably the one place that I have not dedicated a whole lot of time to. But I know that that's not true. I've dedicated a lot of time to and a lot of effort on. But it's been a place where like food and finances, those are the two F's that I probably have the worst relationship with, but I'm working on having a better relationship with both of those spaces. But so those are my greatest growth points or growth spaces that I know I'm going to focus more on. But again, over this last year, I have been re-examining the tools and trying to, no, not trying, catching myself in using the words, right? So you're watching in live action, listening in live action, me changing my vocabulary and how I speak to myself and about myself, even if I'm talking to you. And so going through and modifying my schedule, going through and looking at what I'm doing, moving, and how I'm moving, and if I'm doing that in a way that is helpful and beneficial. Checking my meditation schedule, my mindfulness schedule, my practices. Like, how am I using the tools? Am I using them properly? And where is there more room for outside assistance, perhaps? And so here I find myself in a place where these last like 2 or 3 months, I have really been struggling with paying my bills on time, with getting out of the bed, when making some basic executive decision things like taking my medication at night when it's within hand's reach. I just need to take the medication and deciding not to. And so I've had several activation points personally that I know impact my mental health, right? So if this thing is happening, my mental health is not strong, right? So physical health, good, bad, strong, weak. If I am missing my bill payment and I have the money to pay the bills, which I do, I that is an activation point for me to say, so I need to do something more. If I am having issues in this executive dysfunction space, knowingly not taking medication that's beneficial for my body, that I need to walk, right? That is a huge indicator that something else is happening. And so I was talking to two out of my three kids and talking about, our mental health and what we're doing in those spaces for ourselves. And I ended up at the doctor's office last week and just had a full circle moment in talking to my physician. So what I love about my primary care doc is that she does not believe in medication. Not she doesn't believe in medication, but she does not believe in prescribing something simply because there's an issue. Right? She wants to talk through it. She wants to know what's happening. Is this medication necessary? Are you doing the things? Are you using the tools in order that may prevent you from needing the medication, right? But if you need to take it, you better take it. And I love that about her. That is how we have been able to stay together all these years. And so the last time that I saw her in person, we were talking about my depression and anxiety issues and racing heart and heart palpitations and the sleeping and executive function issues. And we talked about the tools. And so she gave me a couple of things to try. Mind you, this is my primary care physician. This is not my therapist. This is not my mental health any of this. She is the full physical, quote unquote, physical body doctor, but she understands and believes in the strength of the mind and the health of the brain in order to be able to do all of the other things. So big shout out to my doc. She's retiring, so I'm not going to tell you her name. You can't call her for an appointment. And so, anyways, we were in this, not this last appointment, but the one prior to that, talking about the tools. And so she gave me a couple takeaways to try at home around bill payment, around kind of pushing off things for tomorrow that can be done today, right? Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, you know what? Thanks. I needed that. Let me go back and double down on my efforts. Let me not just talk about the tools and talk about how I use them. Let me really examine how I'm using the tools for my sake. And so I did that. And I found some gaps. I poured into those spaces, and yet I was not getting better. And so in this conversation that I had with her a couple days ago, we were talking and, reviewing what we had talked about prior, and that I still was not in a place where I was able to function, and it's getting worse. I'm like, listen, it's time. I do not want to spiral. And I know that if you look at my personal trajectory of mental health, I need to stop this before it gets any worse. Still functioning, lights still on. Listen, in my past, I would come home and the lights not be on. So lights are on, food's in the fridge. I, am seeing the warning signs, not the crisis signs. I never want to be in a crisis situation. And that's one of the things that we've talked about before, right? Like being proactive in our health is necessary in the long term. And it's easier to manage from a proactive space than trying to catch up. And so even there, in the outside of my mental health space, I am in catch up mode, right? Like my brain might be not doing well, and that is causing physical issues in real life. And so, in talking to her, she's like, "Yep, let's do it. I agree with you. Let's go back on your last medication because it worked well." So I'm back on a pill one today, and it will take some time in order for the medication to start working. But what I want to really kind of drill home for you is understanding that it's okay. Right? Whatever your journey entails, whatever your healing journey needs, it's okay. Medication is not going to be for everybody. Some folks need medication for a short time, some for a lifetime. One of the reasons why I stopped taking the medication was because I needed to have a baseline for me. And this was 6 years ago that I stopped taking antidepressants. And this was not a decision I made on my own. I made this decision with my mental health providers to pause and say, all right, what is the new baseline? We'll catch it if it goes too far, but let's see what the baseline is. Can you manage and function without this additional assistance? And it's been 6 years, about 6 years of great space of really being able to, again, use the tools, figure out. And if you need to know, it's like the tools are every podcast is about a tool in some way, shape, or form. But using all of the bits and pieces that I've learned to see if that is, how I can manage my mental health in that space. So just like high blood pressure, and I take high blood pressure medication, just like diabetes, I take diabetes medication. My mental health falls into that category. And so I will take that medication and use it to be able to get better. Now, here's the thing. You can't just take the pill and it magically makes life better. You still have to do the work. Like, I still have to use the tools. This is not like I take the medication and now I don't have to use any of the things that I know work in my day-to-day life. It is in addition to using the tools. Again, what do I mean by using the tools? DBT, CBT therapy types, reprogramming the brain, clearing the schedule and making sure that there's white space, clear space on the calendar for me to decompress, making sure I'm adding to the calendar my mindfulness practices, making sure I'm adding my other and attending my other doctor's appointments and therapy appointments, you doing the work, beginning to eat healthier. I listen. That was the food. That's one of the two F's. Food and finances have always been a thing in the past. I'm speaking life into my situation. They were something that held me back, but they are also the biggest, brightest activation point in my life that I can say, oh, shoot, I need to pay attention. I need to do this thing because my finances and my food life are not working out well. And so that's a benefit to me to know that, because then I know where the activation is happening and when and how I need to respond. So using all of the tools and what that means for me in rebuilding, reclaiming my health. Again, I'm not in crisis mode. I'm not, for me, what I consider even to be mild mental health decline. I don't like the word decline, but issues. I'm still very much in that low, mild space. But because I know what that path can look like while I'm in this mild space of figuring it all out, because I can feel it slipping. So before I slip and fall, I'm putting this measure in place. And so for you, it may be boundaries. It also was boundaries for me, right? That's one of the tools. Being able to say no means saying yes to myself and then doing the things I need to, whether it's rest, whether it's dance in the house, like whatever it is I need to do in order to take care of me. So your journey is going to be different than my journey. What I don't want you to do is be afraid to try something in the healing space that may be beneficial to you. And so this podcast today is really for people who do too much and live in a space where it is not okay to talk about mental health, where it is frowned upon, where you may be seen as less than or not strong enough to take care of your mental health. Listen, we got to do what we got to do in order to be healthy and survive. And so, in that space of health, in that space of recovery and wellness and well being, medication might be one of those things that you have to say yes to or not. It's all a journey. But I want you to be comfortable in examining what can be beneficial to you. And if medication is the route that you take, to give it time to work. Also, give it time to try something new, right? The first one you take may not work for you. And so, because I've taken the second one you take may not work for you, I've taken several medications over the span of these 30 years, right? And so we landed on one that works for me. And so I went back to that one that I know works prayerfully. it will work in this space. But that's another benefit of stepping in early, is that I still have time. Worst case, life is life, right? So if this does take a turn and moves, further into the mild and maybe, borderlining into the moderate, I'm catching it in a time and space that still gives me time before I even have to consider what moderate mental health issues look like for me, right? I'm still in a proactive space and stage. And so I encourage you, as you do the work, as you go on your healing journey, one, to not be afraid. Don't be afraid to try something new. Two, in trying something new, if it doesn't work, try something else. And three, in trying that something else, try it with an open mind. Try it from a this will work space versus the last one didn't and this other one didn't, so I don't know if this one will too. Do you see the difference there? Like, I'm taking this medication, I'm about my business, and if this doesn't work, we're going to move on to the next thing. Two different perspectives, right? So 3 is really like, check your perspective. And then 4, rinse and repeat. This is a journey. It is absolutely a journey. And so I encourage you on this path to just be the light to yourself and offer that grace and compassion and love that you do for everyone else to you too. So until the next time, I encourage you to be the light, and I'll see you next week.